Push play. All right, everybody. So I have the honor and privilege of having Marissa Donnell here today. I brought her on the podcast because I found you on Facebook. I found your story, and I was just, it's very much in line with me as a pharmacist and my view on the aspect of vaccines. But before that, I just want my audience and myself to learn a little bit more about you. So who is Marissa?
Hi, everybody. I'm Marissa Brooke Donnell. I'm a 29-year-old mom of 4 here in Pennsylvania. That is 4 regular children and 4 fur children in my house. A huge animal lover. So we live in a small town in Pennsylvania, and my husband's in IT. I never went to college. I never settled down in a career. I kind of just jumped right into motherhood at 18 unexpectedly, and my life has been a whirlwind roller coaster ever since. I never really kept a job. I'd say from age 18 to 23, 24 until I found network marketing, and that allowed me to stay home with my kids. So that's what I did up until this year. I stayed home with all my 3 boys. My oldest was already in school, but now everybody's in full-time care, so I'm a stay-at-home dog mom.
I love that. I love that. Your dogs are so cute.
Actually what my shirt says right now.
Oh yeah, stay-at-home dog mom.
I know they can't see it, but my shirt says that right now.
But we'll have this on YouTube as well, so there will be a cross.
That's cool.
That's so cool. Oh, that's see, another thing I loved about you, because I have 2 rescue dogs, so I can totally appreciate that. So for like human kids, 4 did you say 4 dogs?
We have 2 dogs and 2 cats.
Yes. Okay. Oh my gosh, that's wow. So, and I am network marketing. I am in that too. So what has network marketing offered you? You said you get to stay at home, but what else has that allowed you to do in your life?
The first 2 companies that I attempted were retail network marketing, which I later found out was not for me. But that's okay, because it gave me the training and the following that I needed to get into the company that I'm in now, which was great. And I'm very grateful for that, because I got into this company I'm in now and kind of took off running, because I already had a substantial following and all of that. So, I mean, it's done more than I ever could have imagined. It got us in this beautiful house that we're in right now. I got my dream Jeep. I got, my animals that I always wanted. I always rescued. We were always a rescue family, and we always did that. But you always have in the back of your mind those purebred animals that you want. And I grew up with a golden retriever, so I finally got my little golden retriever puppy, and he's been amazing. And it's done a lot. It's paid off my son's medical bills. It's paid off a lot of our debt. We're extremely grateful for it.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I saw your golden retriever at your feet the other day.
He's always at my feet. I love him.
So, and you mentioned your son's medical bills. So if you want to kind of go into that aspect of the story, yeah, I'd love to share that.
So I'm gonna pull up. I always have I have his story in my notes here, because I always leave stuff out. But it was just such a crazy couple years when I got pregnant with him. My 20-week ultrasound, I had 2 kids prior to him. He was my 3rd. And so you're used to it. You go in for the 20-week scan. They tell you the gender. Everything's good. Go home, celebrate. Well, that wasn't the case with us, unfortunately. And I was by myself at that appointment. My husband actually had to work. So he said, okay, meet me in the office after you're dressed. And I was like, oh God. So he says, your son has a difference in his right leg that he doesn't have in his left. And I said, okay, well, what does that mean? And he said, I don't know. So hearing I don't know from a doctor is kind of terrifying, because, you don't know what to expect, and you're a pregnant, hormonal, scared mess. But so I went home and I did my research, and I joined, thank God for Facebook forums, because they basically diagnosed my son before the OB did. So he was born with fibular hemimelia and congenital femoral deficiency in his right leg. Basically, in regular people terms, he was born without a fibula, so he has no bone right there. His tibia and his femur were short, and he had no ankle bone, no ACL in his knee, and his hip was all sorts of screwed up.
Wow.
So believe it or not, he taught himself how to walk at 18 months. He's thriving with this condition, but he has had to have, I think, 10 surgeries up until this point. He's 4.5 now. So he's had 10 surgeries, 6 of which were in the same year because it was bone infections that he had to get drained from the previous surgeries. So he's been through quite a lot in his short life, but that doesn't even touch on his vaccine injury, which I'm sure you want to know about as well. Yeah. Do you want to talk about that right now? Okay.
Yeah, however you want to, yeah.
So he got his first surgery at 12 months old, and I actually held off on his 12-month vaccines because something was telling me he's having surgery, don't do all of this at once, whatever. So I didn't. I waited until afterwards. We went in for his 18-month. Actually, I didn't even go for his 15. We went in for his 18-month, and they gave him everything that he had missed in that appointment. And again, guys, I grew up getting vaccines. I grew up knowing that that's what you did and what you're supposed to do. And I wanted my kids to be protected. So that's what I did. And he got 7 or 8 different, there wasn't 7 or 8 different shots, but it was combined with like the MMR and the DTaP. Combined was like 7 or 8 different things that he was getting vaccinated for that day. After his vaccines previously, he always, got a little bit of a fever, and we would give him Tylenol and do exactly what the pediatrician told us to do. And that was that. Well, this time we got home and he fell asleep immediately. He woke up from his nap with like 104.5 fever. It was so high. I've never felt a human body that hot in my life. And so I immediately brought him into the bathroom, gave him like a lukewarm bath, whatever I had to do at that point. I unfortunately gave him Tylenol, and then he fell back asleep for the night. The next morning at around, I'd say it was early, it was still dark out. It was like 5 or 5:30 in the morning. I hear on the baby monitor this banging, like this thud, thud, thud. And I immediately got up. I said, "What is that?" And my husband said, "I don't know." We ran into his room. He was sitting in his crib, straight up, banging his head against the back of his crib, just with no light in his eye. Like he wasn't there. He just was like this, staring off into space. And I went up to him. I grabbed him. Talon, what's going on? Are you okay? Nothing. He didn't look at me. He didn't say anything. And he's 18 months old at this point. So he was walking. He was talking. He was, all of that. So I picked him up. I put him on the ground. I tried to hold him and get him to stop. And he started throwing his head into the ground, viciously throwing his head into the ground. So we picked him up. We held him there for a minute. He finally calmed down, brought him into the family room, and he stood up and then fell to the ground as if he couldn't walk. He just fell. Now, he didn't lose walking completely. He was able to walk after that, but it was wobbly. He stopped talking. He didn't know a single word after that day. He stopped using utensils. He wouldn't eat half of the food that he used to eat, started lining up toys instead of playing with them, couldn't go out in public without a meltdown, couldn't listen to a loud noise without covering his ears. And I think the worst part of it was the screaming. It was the high-pitched, I've never heard anything like it, piercing scream that he would just do out of nowhere for no reason. And I guess now they call it the DTaP scream. That's what I've heard since then, that their brain is on fire. It just, they don't know how to explain it, and their brain is just swelling. And that's what it was, because he ended up with encephalitis after that. And his head, even still now, is way too big for his proportionate self.
So what transpired after that? doctor visits, and what would they tell you was going on with him?
So honestly, I didn't even connect the two, and I literally kick myself for it every day. And I just thought, we have a son who's probably developing autism, and we're gonna have to get him evaluated and all this stuff. And finally, I think it was like 3 months later, he's still doing all of this stuff. It like clicked. I don't know what it was. I think it was probably something I read or something I saw. And that's when I dated back and I looked at the day that this happened, because thank God I posted in a mom group the day it happened. So I knew the date.
Wow.
And then I knew the date of his, so thank God for Facebook. And so I kind of, traced back my steps and saw the timeline of it all. And that's when I started doing my digging. And I brought him into the pediatrician for his 2-year checkup and declined his vaccines. And that was the day that they kicked us out. They said, we can't treat you anymore if you're not going to vaccinate. And that right there was like I was like, why? That's our decision as a family. Why are you kicking us out? So that caused me to dig even more and see why that was such a thing in the pediatrician world. So we got him evaluated for autism around, actually, I think we did it first it was before he was 2, because we did it twice. And the first time they were like, all right, he's not 2 yet. It's really hard to get them into the program before they're 2. We'll do speech therapy and check back with you at 2. So that's what we did. Took him back at 2, and he immediately, they told us that he had high functioning autism, and that he would qualify for services. So we got him into the services, and honestly, he regressed when he went into that classroom. I think because he's around so many kids that are worse off than him. He is high functioning. We are very grateful that, he is not 4 years old and still in a diaper. And, we're very grateful for all of that. But I do think that that's why he was regressing in that setting. So we pulled him and we put him in Goddard school with his other 2 brothers, where they went, and he started thriving in that school. But I can't give them all the credit, because we've done so much here at home for him.
Yeah. So what are some of the things that you have found that have really benefited him?
So the first thing that I found was CBD oil. That was 2 years ago almost. It was in January of 2018. I got a Facebook message from a friend of mine that said her friend was using this CBD on her autistic son, and she was seeing all these benefits. And at the time I was like, I'm not giving my kid marijuana. Like I'm not making my kid high. Super uneducated on it, the stigma and all of that. So I said no at first. And she kept messaging me about it and sending me these YouTube videos and all this stuff. And I was like, okay, fine, we'll try it. So she sent me a sample, and that night, and this was actually, the sample was, no, it wasn't, it was full spectrum. So it did have the 0.03% or less THC in it. Mm-hmm. Not enough to make you high, but enough for like that little extra oomph in the medical benefits of it. He slept for the first time through the night since I could remember. He had been getting up at midnight, 2 a.m., 4 a.m., just screaming, all that for months and months and months. And he slept through the entire night. I remember waking up and thinking he was dead. Like I woke up and I was like, oh my God, like
right?
Yeah. And I ran into his room and I was like, oh my God, he's still sleeping. It was like 7 in the morning. So I thought it was a fluke. I was like, oh, it was a fluke. We'll try it again tonight. And the same thing. He slept through the night that night. And then slowly over time, I started using it every day, and we saw improvements. The school saw improvement. They said he could handle like kids coming into his personal space more. He was actually like interacting with the kids in his classroom. And we saw improvements at home. He started showing more interest in food. He was sleeping. He was making better eye contact with us. Like so many things that he had lost, he was gaining. And so I said, okay, we can't stop here. Like we're seeing improvements. We have to continue this, because what if this is something that we could fix? What if this is, I don't like the word fix. I know people get upset about that. Mm-hmm. But you know what I mean. What if this is something that we can help him with so he could live a more normal life in the future.
Yes.
So I looked into heavy metal detoxes because his blood work came back and the aluminum levels in his brain were skyrocketed. I mean, they were so high. The doctor was like, oh my God. I went to a holistic specialist. So he said, okay, we need to get him on a heavy metal detox. So we actually started the medical medium heavy metal detox smoothies, which are really good if you look into them. They're actually really tasty. So he drank those a couple times a week, and we started the TRS heavy metal detox spray. Just a clear spray, you spray in the mouth. It tastes like water. It's super easy for kids to take. And it's a zeolite spray. So if you don't know what that is, it basically attaches to the heavy metals in your body and you pee it out. It just gets rid of them. So we started on that, and it's an intense supplement. You have to start really, really low because you can have a really bad detox from it, which he actually got off pretty okay. We had a few things that he regressed into the first week, but after that, he talked. Like, I'm not kidding you, within 2 or 3 weeks of taking this, he was talking again, and he hadn't spoken a word in months. Now he's fully verbal. He's 4.5 and he doesn't shut up. I can hear him right now. He's watching Toy Story and he's talking along with the TV.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
So that in and of itself was amazing. And then again, everything, he was getting it back. He was playing with toys. He was looking people in the eye. He was talking. He was just everything. He stopped lining up toys. He was okay in crowds with loud noises, all of that stuff, and just handling everything so much better than he had been. So at that point, once we did that, we incorporated the diet change. And that was the third big thing that we did with him, was we cut out gluten, we cut out dairy. And I'm not going to say that we've been 100% perfect, because obviously it is incredibly hard in this day and age to do that. At home, it's very easy. When you're out, it's very hard. So I'd say he's probably about 90% gluten, dairy free. And you can tell if he has dyes or if he has an enormous amount of sugar, he's a totally different kid. We cut out screen time, because when he's on the iPad, he acts so much worse than when he's not. So there's just so many little things that we did that helped him. And now he's going to go to a neurotypical kindergarten in the fall of next year, and he might still need an aide, but he's going to be able to go to the same school that his brothers go to, which is huge, because we never thought that would happen.
Yeah, that must just feel so rewarding to you, because I mean, you took it upon yourself to heal him, and I think so many parents come to me because I'm currently in New York State, and it's now mandatory in order for kids to
know that.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. And I have a really good friend of mine who, she's just like, she was so upset. She's like, I don't want to do this, but my kids are upset because they're not at school with their friends. So it's hard when I have friends that are like, I don't have a choice. Like I don't even get the choice to protect my children from something. I'm forced to do it. So this is very helpful as far as what you used for your son, because I have people come to me that say, well, how can I detox my kids now that they had to get X, Y, and Z vaccination? So for those states that isn't absolutely mandatory, or even some of those states that are, do you have like suggestions or, things to, definitely watch for in your kids if they are getting these vaccinations? Your message is so powerful. You resonate with me. Just your profile picture said it all with the shirt that you had on. Because I'm a very passionate pharmacist who I left the profession because I didn't want to be contributing. I didn't want to be the one popping the needles into people. And so this is hits home with me big time.
I mean, there are so many, if you just look at a vaccine insert, and I'm sure you know because you've seen them, so many people don't, because they just go in and they get them and that's that. If you actually take the time to look at the actual insert on the CDC's website, not the tiny little piece of paper that your pediatrician gives you where it's all sugar coated, the actual insert, all of the side effects are listed there, and they're from small, tiny little side effects to the big ones. There are warning signs, and we had them because from 0 to 12 months old, when Talon was getting vaccinated before the 18-month ones that totally just put him over the top, he had eczema terribly. I have pictures of the rashes all over his body. And that's not like, eczema is not genetic, guys. It's, if you really look into it, it's your gut. Your gut is completely, it's crying out for help, basically. Eczema, fevers. A fever after a vaccination is not normal. That's not something that should be considered normal. That's your body saying, I need to get this out. This, you just put poison inside of me and I need to get it out. Obviously, seizures. I mean, I know so many people whose kids have had seizures after, and the doctor says, oh, that's okay, it's just a side effect. Ear infections. Ear infections is another big one. That's so many. I think probably 80% of my friends' kids have had tubes put in their ears as toddlers because they've had so many ear infections. We did get lucky in that aspect, but actually my son Jackson, who's 5, had to get ear surgery at one point, not because of ear infections, but because of something else. It was like a cyst on the inside of his ear, but correlated, I don't know. But again, ear infections is a huge one. Everybody's kids gets them so often, and it's not a normal thing. Shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be, but yeah, it's funny when you say that, because I know so many parents are like, kids are just, it's a phase that they go through. It's like getting their tonsils out. It's like, a lot of kids just have to get their tonsils out. I'm like,
Think about it. Like, this is actually something I had a conversation with my mom about recently, because I thought to myself, I said, so many people say, well, it's winter, kids get sick. And I've seen so many people, even in the past year, their kids are sick 4, 5, 6 times over the course of the school year. And I don't remember that as a kid. So I actually called up my mom and I said, Mom, how many times did me, Robbie, or Kelsey, my siblings, how many times did we get the stomach virus growing up? And she said, oh, you got it maybe once. Robbie got it once. I don't think Kelsey ever got it. And I said, never. In the 0 to 18 years, she said, not that I can remember, no. I said, okay, how about strep throat? I used to get strep actually probably once every couple of years. So I did get it, but my siblings never had it. My brother and my sister never got it. And I said, okay, so how many times did you hear of like kids missing so much school because they were out for a week with the flu? And she said, honestly, I don't remember that. And I said, neither do I. Yes, kids missed school for being sick every once in a while, but not as prominently as they are now with the autoimmune diseases and the chronic illnesses and cancer. Cancer. I mean, how many kids did you know with cancer in your elementary school class?
None. Yeah. That is a great point too. I correlated it, but it's so true. It's, cancer is huge. Yeah. I remember having the chicken pox. Mm-hmm. And I used to brag about, like, I didn't miss any school. I haven't missed school since, 5 years ago. So that's so interesting. And you bring up gut health. That's another super passion of mine that I'm so big on. So you say, and you're not perfect with gluten, dairy free, but do you have, because so many people are challenged by that, like how do you get and maybe your kiddos were so young when you transitioned, but what are some tips that you have for parents who are like, I would love to do it, but my kids are like fighting me?
You just don't buy the stuff that they can't eat. And it sounds simple, but it is hard. Mm-hmm. When we first started this, because I need to do it too. I have really bad GI issues, like really bad. I'm actually, maybe the last week, have been in the middle of a huge flare up, and we still have no answers as to what is going on with me. But when we first started the gluten and dairy free, we ran out of everything that we had. I went to Kimberton Whole Foods, which is just a whole food place around here. And I bought only the stuff that I could eat. So that's all that my kids had the option of eating. And it was hell for like 3 or 4 days. Where's this? I don't have string cheese. I don't have this. But eventually, now I literally asked my 4-year-old the other day, I said, what do you want for dinner tonight, buddy? And he said, Apples, bananas, blueberry, and that's because that's all he knows now. That's what he loves. And sure, they have the occasional piece of cake at a birthday party. They have, like, I'm not a monster. I do let them have, treats every once in a while. But if you make that the norm and get through that hellish, like 3, 4, 5 days where they are going to rebel and they're not going to eat, and trust me, kids will not starve themselves. They will eventually eat.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible to change it. It really is.
And I think kids are so adaptable, like so quickly too, because they haven't created the habits that we have for 25 plus 30, whatever years. So
it's hard. I have a harder time doing it but Pinterest is great for substitutes for kids.
That's great.
To look and taste really good that are very good for them.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So because I Facebook stalked you after I was like, whoa, this girl's like, I don't know. It's just like, because even as a pharmacist, I even find it more challenging to put out there my position on vaccines, because people will come at you like, how could and I don't have children. I have my fur babies, but I know that's a big stigma for people to overcome. And I look at your post on your page and it's so well done. You're professional about it. And people are responsive to you. So how did that, when you first started sharing your views, like how did you combat like those trolls or the negativity? And now it looks like you pretty much have people that are your tribe on your page.
Yeah, it definitely took a while to get to where I'm at right now. And I actually distinctly remember the first time that I posted, because the first post I ever did was Talon's story. And it was because I wanted people to know why I was going to be becoming so passionate about this topic. And I had been researching it for probably a year before I became outspoken about it. I didn't want to look like an idiot. I wanted to know at least some stuff that I was talking about before just ignorantly going out there and spreading information. I got a lot of good feedback on that post, but I got a whole Facebook group made about me in my town to bash me, basically. It's also still there. But I don't know. I've always had pretty thick skin, and I can attribute that to a lot of different things that have happened throughout my life. But I still, to this day, get the backlash. I get people calling me crazy. I get people telling me my 2-year-old's going to be in a coffin before he's 3. Because he's my only completely unvaccinated kid. My healthiest kid too, by the way. And you have to take it with a grain of salt, because I have to remember where I came from in this situation. And I was those people 2.5 years ago. I used to call people who didn't vaccinate crazy, and I used to be that person. So when people are rude, I either A, ignore it and try to remember where I came from, or B, try to throw some factual information in there and see if maybe they'll listen at some point. Most of the time they don't. They're pretty set in their ways, but at least they're watching. Mm-hmm. And as much hate as I get, the messages that I get in my inbox, I'd say I'd probably get one every 2 or 3 days that says, I just want to thank you because I was on the fence about vaccinating or not vaccinating my newborn, and I'm now not going to do it because and I always tell people, I'm like, don't not do it because of me. Mm-hmm. Do not do it because you read my posts. Do it or do not do it because you went in and researched it yourself too, because I don't want you to be like, using me as that pedestal. I want you to do your own research too, because everybody has to form their own opinion. They can't just follow someone and blindly listen to what they're saying. And I'm not saying the stuff I post is inaccurate. It's factual, but I want people to think for themselves as well. But I get messages like that all the time. And that's what keeps me going above all of the people that are so hateful, because I am reaching other people that might be too afraid to post about it or talk about it.
Yeah, you're a voice for, and you're even inspiring me because I know I need to be like the medical side of the voice because I know, I mean, people need to have that choice. You know, it's, people need to have, and I always tell people, you know, it's your choice. It should be your choice whether to vaccinate or not. But also you need to realize that I always tell people if these vaccines were so amazing and work that people wouldn't have to worry about their kids. If they're vaccinating and other people are not, they shouldn't have to worry about those that are not vaccinating. They should be A-okay. So, but yeah, you say it right. You need to do your own research.
I don't know if you saw that the article that came out today that was in New York about the chicken pox. Did you see that yet?
I did not see that. Enlighten me, please.
One of the schools in New York that kicked out all the unvaccinated kids, whenever that was, a couple months ago, now has a huge case of the chicken pox in the school with only vaccinated children.
Really?
Yeah. So look that up once you're done.
I will. Holy cow. Interesting.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. And then you see these articles, and this is always a push of mine, is the drug companies are like, we're not in this to keep people healthy, which we know that. But when they actually say it, and it's just like, don't people understand? Like, I tell people, when you watch the news and you see this whole like fear of the flu, and then the next commercial break is 3 drug commercials, I'm like, did the light go off a little bit? You know, and I don't even try to like push my thoughts on them, but I'm like, pay attention to some of these things. We're, you know,
we don't even watch regular television anymore. We completely shut it off. We gave up cable. We only have Netflix, and Disney movies is really all we watch in this house. I think my kids would die without Disney movies. The agenda on even social media, on the TV, on the internet, on everything, it's just, if you really dig and you really open your eyes to it, you're like, wow.
Mm-hmm.
And it's until it clicks, and it'll just click one day, and you'll literally look at yourself and say, wow, how did I not see that? But it's because you see what you want to see. Yeah. And that's just unfortunately how it is until something makes you question it.
Yes. And for you, it was your son, and you know, you just hope not everyone has to have that situation happen to them for them to be like, ooh, wow. Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's most of the time what it takes. And I don't want that. And that's why I post about it so much. And that's why I talk to my family about it. My sister's a nurse. She just graduated Penn State in May, and she is now a mother baby unit nurse. And her and I butt heads on this all the time. And she thinks I'm a Looney Tune, but we have the MTHFR gene mutation in this family, and Talon has a double mutation of that, which is, so do I. I have the double, he has the double. My other kids have a single copy, but she won't listen to me about it. And it's super frustrating because she's 23 and she's in a serious relationship, and I know she's gonna have kids one day in the next couple years, and I'm terrified for that day. So that's why I keep speaking out, hoping that maybe someone's listening that might be a little hard-headed about it.
Mm-hmm. And I say keep doing it. I totally get you with my family and any views that I have. Like I told you, you know, this morning my mom's like, I'm going to go get my flu shot. And I'm like, you know, that's only 10%, if you're lucky, effective, right? And then the rest of it's just all these chemicals you're putting in your body.
And they bribe you with it, with gift cards.
Yes.
I don't understand. If people don't see why they have to bribe you with stuff to get a free shot, like they don't give things away for free. And they're giving this vaccine away for free, and just, come on, let it click.
Yeah, like for free, and we're going to give you $25. Yeah. And it was your post the other day about the people that couldn't get their paycheck, right? I think your page. Actually
illegal, and I actually did look into that after it, because that is illegal to withhold a paycheck, but it's not illegal to keep them from work. You can keep them from actually clocking in, but you can't withhold funds. So I was like really curious how they got away with that, but maybe it was just fear mongering. I don't know, but yeah, they'll do anything that will make nurses wear masks, and no one wants to wear a mask for 12 hours a day. So what else are they going to do?
I have to, with my experience when I was still working retail, I remember my last manager that I worked for, I was the only pharmacist in our area who had not become certified as an immunizer. I was fighting it. I was trying to look into, how can I get out of it? Like, researching what can I fill out that it's whatever, it's a religious belief or whatever. And I had one of my managers say, how do you feel about killing people? And I was like, excuse me? Yeah. And, this is another pharmacist. And I'm like, I'm not sure I know what you're talking about, as I'm like drinking my green smoothie, and eating all my healthy food. And he's like, you don't get the flu shot. Aren't you afraid to kill people? I'm like, I'm the healthiest person in this department. I don't know, I'm like playing super dumb. I'm like, explain yourself to me, because I'm not understanding. And I just kept having this overwhelming dream and thought, like, someday I'm just going to be in the pharmacy and they're just going to come right behind me and just,
Oh my God, I know. Oh my gosh.
And it sounds crazy, but I'm just like, is it though?
Nothing sounds crazy anymore. It really doesn't. My daughter's 11 and she was vaccinated until she was 5, which, I just did because I didn't know any better. Mm-hmm. And then they don't get any more till they go into middle school. So they have that big gap between 5 and 10 or 5 and 11. So this year she was due for her boosters, and I think it was HPV, Tdap or DTaP, one of the two, and pneumococcal. And those are the 3 that she was supposed to get. So we didn't take her into the pediatrician because they won't see us. So I took her into the Minute Clinic. And that next day, Layla said, oh, my friends, they were all talking about the HPV vaccine and how they got the first one in the series of 2 or 3, whatever it is. And I said, oh, what were they talking about? She said, oh, they were saying that they don't want to get cervical cancer and that they're going to die if they don't get this shot. And I said, oh, did you say anything? And she said, yeah, I told them that I didn't get it and that I'm not going to get it. And I said, how did that go? And she said, well, they all told me that I was going to die of cancer. And I said, Layla, just stay strong in this subject and either just walk away from it or try and educate them, because I talk to her about it all the time. And I say, you're going to grow up in a world with women who can't have kids because of this vaccine. And you should maybe try and plant that little seed in their head and see what they say about it. But it's just sad that it starts that young. At 10, 11 years old, their parents are telling them, you're going to die if you don't get this shot right now. And it's terrifying.
And that's what everything is based off of. So, well, I want to respect your time. I'm so grateful for you though. Like I just instantly was like engrossed in what you're doing. I love it. And if I can ever support you in any way, let me know. Cause you're truly, like I said, you're truly inspiring me to really get my voice out there, because it just has to happen. There's so many people that need to know that, they have the power to educate themselves and know that this is not for the best interest of overall health of our population. It's just so where can people find you? How can we support you? All the things.
I'm mostly on Facebook. That's my whatever you want to call it, my home base. Marissa Brooke Donnell is my name on Facebook. It's spelled Donnell. If I know, I hate that. It's Donnell, but spelled Donnell. So I'm always on Facebook. And if you want to look into this more and research it more, the first 3 things that I did was I watched the documentary Vaxxed, Vaxxed. It's on Amazon Prime. It's an amazing documentary. I actually got my husband over to my side by watching that documentary. And then I started following The High Wire with Del Bigtree. He's amazing. And he's like the most knowledgeable on this subject. He goes live every Thursday and is just pouring information. It's like hard to keep up sometimes because he's just got so much knowledge about all of this. And then the other one is a forum on Facebook that when you search for it, it is not going to come up. So you have to either get added into it. Feel free to send me a message if you want me to add you into it. But it's called the Vaccine Re-Education Discussion Forum. And Facebook has since blocked people from being able to get added into it. So you have to be a member and add someone. Extremely frustrating, but it's still there at least and hasn't gotten shut down. So it's got like 200,000 people in it. And yeah, it's a really good source of information in there.
What was that again? The Vaccine Re-Education
Discussion Forum.
Okay. Wow. So powerful. Thank you so much, Marissa, for getting on here with me and sharing your experiences and your knowledge. You have a lot of knowledge on this, so keep up the great work.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks.